Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the Two Ewes of Two Ewes Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at twoewesfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our Two Ewes Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode.
Hi, Marsha.
Hi, Kelly. Well, Kelly, you know this, but I need to let people know that my mother passed away on the 17th of January, and it was really nice that when you were up here that you were able to see her.
I was really happy, yeah.
Yeah, we saw her about 3 times, but she had actually stopped eating, so we knew it was time, and I think I got the call 11 p.m. on Tuesday night.
Tuesday, yeah. You called me on Wednesday morning.
Yeah, Tuesday night, and then I went out and I was with her, and she passed away about 6 a.m. And I think everybody probably is in the situation where you're caring for a parent. There's a bit of relief, that it was time to go, but there's also a huge loss.
Right.
I find myself every day like, I got to bring her laundry out to her. Oh, no, I don't have to do that. I don't really know what to do with myself.
It's been such a big part of your life for the last few years.
Yeah. So I miss her, but the truth is everything that made my mom has been gone for a while because of the dementia. And I think since Thanksgiving, she didn't know who I was anymore. So I think it's, this is what people always say, it's for the best. And I never really agreed with that, but now I really do understand that it's time. She was just a few days shy of her 92nd birthday. So she had a really good, long life, and it was just time to go. Everybody has this journey that they're on, and it was her time to finish the journey. So
someone was made the comment to me the other day that we all have this terminal disease called life.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's one way to think about it, but it is hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I have to say about myself, just, if you had asked me 25 years ago if I could have done this, I don't think I could have done it. But it's amazing what you can do when it's, when you love somebody and when it's, it's necessary.
Right.
And I'm really proud of the way I cared for my mother, and it was hard decisions hard to recognize what was going on with her, that the dementia, when it first started, was very difficult, and just having to face it and admit it, because
right.
I'm this way, my whole family is this way. We'd rather just look the other way and not face what's really going on.
Right, just soldier on.
Yes. Everything's fine, and we covered for her for a really long time, and then we just couldn't cover for her anymore. So we moved her to where she had an apartment, but kind of a communal living, but with her own apartment. And that was it was a difficult move, but I think in the end, I'm glad we did that. She had a great time when she was there. There was all kinds of activities, and she made some good friends. And
a little over a year she was there.
Yeah. She was there, a year and a half, I think, and they did all kinds of fun things. She went every day on the bus someplace for just a city tour, and they went out to lunch. And then I think this last move in October to the nursing home, skilled nursing in the memory care unit, I was so impressed with the care that they gave her. So kind and so sweet and so gentle and loving towards her and to all of the residents, and I was there pretty much every day.
Right.
So trying to get her to eat, and anyway, I think I did a good job. I'm proud of myself.
I think you did too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing, just on a practical sense, I went through a divorce in 2015. It was, 2000. When was it final? 2016.
16, yeah.
And then I had all of that paperwork involving the divorce. And then I decided to go back to my birth name, and all the paperwork going back to my birth name, I think has prepared me for what's ahead of clearing up the estate.
All the paperwork. Marsha's the paperwork queen.
I'm getting really good at it.
Oh my gosh.
So I do think, though,
you should hire yourself out.
Yeah, God, no.
A second career.
Yes. Oh, God, no. And I think, just about how I feel going into the divorce, feeling slightly hysterical all the time about the paperwork. And then the name change was a little bit, it's not hard. Let me just say, none of this is really hard if you look at it, but the thought of it is more hysteria inducing than is really warranted. But then I have to say right now I feel pretty calm about going into the clearing up the estate, because now ask me in a year or ask me next month. But, right now I don't think it's going to be that. I'm better prepared, in a much better place, But anyway, which leads to knitting now. We will get to talking about knitting. I have to say divorce, name change, and then encompassing all of this, caring for my mother, because this has really I've been caring for her. I think I took over, I don't know, it's been 5 years or something.
I was going to say, the entire time we've been podcasting, you've been caring for her. That's right. 3 years. I think it was before that. Yeah.
So what was so great about this period of time, though, is I had knitting and spinning, and it was so meditative and so therapeutic and so comforting. When you're having to just take time during the day to sit and knit. It's very relaxing and kind of restorative and grounding and
calms the turmoil. Yeah.
Yeah. Just knit, stitch after stitch after stitch, or spinning, just watching the wheel go around and around and around is so soothing. So, and doing tactile things is really very, very therapeutic. So anyway,
knitting is good therapy.
Knitting is good therapy. And also, the other thing, too, just to expand on that, too, is like with the podcast and the knitting and the groups that I've joined and the people we've met through the podcast, it's expanded my world outside of just caring for my mother. And I've met people, and knitting has just been really great.
There's been a lot of benefits to both of us from knitting in the last few years. Yeah.
So, anyway.
Nice.
On to projects.
Okay.
What have you got to report on?
Well,
projects?
I do. I have 2 finished projects. So the spirit yarn, that black chunky yarn that I brought home from your house, I made the hat for my sister. I used the pattern called Molly, and I like it because it's a cable that goes up the hat. But the background of the cable is a kind of a waffly looking stitch. So it's stockinette, but it's also got a row in there of like knit one, purl one. So it's like one row of ribbing every so often during the stockinette, and it gives it kind of a waffly texture, which I think is a really nice texture for the hat. It went well with the cable and also makes that chunky yarn even more, I don't know, sort of squishy and warm looking. So I sent that off to her and saw she posted a picture of herself wearing it. So I hope that she likes it. I hope it's not too itchy. My family has a problem with itchy wool. This is a super wash, so it's washable, which is what she needed. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll try getting a softer one and making her a softer. I mean, the hat's not the wool's not scratchy or anything, but I think Knit Picks makes one called Swish, superwash that's really soft. And then there's some that are part acrylic that are pretty soft. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll find another black and make her a second black hat, or maybe I'll make a dark gray. She wants something neutral. Maybe I'll make her another hat in a little softer yarn too. But I haven't done that. But I did finish the Molly hat, and I recommend that pattern. I really like it. And now I'm using that same pattern but without the cable. to do a charity hat because I took 3 balls of your spirit yarn and the hat I made for my sister, I made a little bit slouchier than the original Molly hat by adding in just a little bit more rows to it. And the Molly hat's not chunky, so I had to recalculate. And I think I put notes on my pattern page if anybody's interested. But anyway, it was a little slouchier. And where was I going with that? That meant it ended up taking just like 3 yards more than a skein of yarn.
Oh, okay.
So I have another almost 2 full skeins of this yarn. And so I thought, I'll make a charity hat. So that's what I'm knitting on right now is just another one of those hats. I'm not doing the cable. I'm just doing the waffly stitch on this one because I wanted something to be able to knit sort of mindlessly, right? Just social knitting. So, and then the other project I finished was the Aztec Cupcake socks.
Okay.
So I was up visiting my dad, and his wife is now bedridden with Alzheimer's. And so I went up to just check in on him because that's a recent occurrence that she's bedridden. So I went up to just check in, and I had a lot of knitting time. And again, talk about the therapeutic effects of knitting. It was nice to have my sock knitting handy while I was there. So we sat and talked, and I knit, and I was able actually to finish those socks. So 2 finished projects, both small, but pretty good to have something finished. And then the charity hat on the go, another charity hat sitting here in case I get to a point with this one during the episode that I need to stop. I have another one right here to just add to it, just scraps, spirit yarn that I'm using for that. So, and then the only really big project that I'm working on right now is my poncho, the Indigo Frost, and I love it.
Yes, you texted me this morning a picture, and it's darling.
I love it. Oh my gosh, it's coming out so pretty. I think I told you, and maybe I posted it in the discussion boards too, because I feel like I told more than one person this. But when I did the color work at the top, I just felt like I wanted to keep going. Like, let's do another group of colors, and let's do another group of colors, and another group of colors. I just wanted to keep going, and I thought, no, it's too much. It's really pretty because it's just this bit. Yeah. And so I stopped. But, man, I was tempted to just because I have 6 or 7 of those colors. And remember, we put them out and decided, which ones should I use together, which ones should I probably not use. And when I was on the plane, that's when I started the color work. So I just made the decision about which 3 I was going to use. But then there's all these ones I didn't get to use, and I want to try them, but I didn't. And I think it was the right decision. I still think I'm going to put a colorwork band at the bottom. Someone commented that they didn't know if they would do that because they don't think they want a horizontal line going around, the hip area. And so I am a little bit wondering about that. So yeah, I don't know. It has ribbing at the bottom as well. Putting in another band of color work will break up. I'll have to stop doing the eyelets. So I'm not exactly positive I'm going to do that. Maybe it is best to just have this one beautiful strip of color work and stop. Well,
part of design and art is always sort of knowing when to stop. Same thing with cooking, when to stop putting stuff, salt in, when to stop putting in hot sauce, red pepper.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't decided, but right now I'm on a very sloggy part of it. And you would think it would be very social knitting, wouldn't you?
You would think so, but I know it's not because it's got those eyelet things in there, those little holes, right?
Yes, it's got
Let's
eyelet
hear about
holes.
that, Kelly.
Okay, well, it's got eyelet holes, and they alternate. So there's 2 rows of eyelet holes, but they alternate. So, one row, they'll be all lined up, and then every other row they line up. Mm-hmm. Or that, in theory, they're supposed to line up. You would think I would be able to count, like, knit 2, yarn over, slip, slip, knit 4. Mm-hmm. Knit 2, yarn over, slip, slip, knit 4. Or however many, because it changes as you increase. No. I have the hardest time with that. I don't know how many times I've had to rip this stupid thing back because I put the holes in the wrong place. And you can see it, kind of, but the holes are between stitches, not on. Like if it's a stitch, like let's say you put a purl stitch where it shouldn't be. It's not lined up with the purl stitch below it. You can like run your finger down the line and see it's not lined up.
Right.
And see where it needs to be. With the yarn overs, they're between stitches.
Right.
And so are they between the two on the left-hand side of the stitch, or are they on the right-hand side of the stitch between these two? And being off by just a tiny bit doesn't seem like it would make a difference. But the further along you get, when you look back, then you can tell. Yeah. And I just, oh my gosh. So I've...
Well,
I have to concentrate.
And because they're lined up very geometrically, like then it's really obvious when one is not.
Yes. Yeah, you can't just pretend you don't notice this one stitch out of line with all the rest. It's like a marching band. Mm-hmm. The one person out of line, you do see it even though it's just one person.
Yeah.
So anyway, I do have to concentrate when I knit on that. I forget how many rows it is, to do both sets of those holes. But I have to count rows. Mm-hmm. And I'm not very good at reading my knitting vertically. I can tell the number of stitches, and I can tell, this was supposed to be a purl and this was supposed to be a knit and stuff like that. But I always have trouble looking at my row and seeing, is this the third row after the yarn overs, or is this the second row after the yarn overs? And do I count the stitch that's on the needle as one of the rows, or do I not? I always have trouble with that. And so I'm being very unlike myself and marking down every row as I go. Yeah. Which is meaning that I do have to concentrate. I can't knit on it while I talk. And
well, Kelly, I just have to add my 2 cents about counting the stitches. So the Recoleta that I made, I talked about this, that the lace pattern, I don't know how many stitches it was. I can't remember now, but like 36. It was big, like the number of stitches I had to do in this lace repeat. And I couldn't keep track of where I was because it was so long. So I ended up putting a line. I draw a line down the chart, and that corresponded a stitch marker in the lace pattern with that. So I think I ended up having 10 stitches in between each marker.
Yeah,
do you
I just
think that
did.
I would do that? I would knit. I thought everything was right. I'd come back around and I'd have 9 stitches, or I'd have 11 stitches. I know. What did I do? I could not figure. So I did. Now the thing is, it's the lace, so you cannot tell. But sometimes I I have 9 stitches, so I guess, I only have 9 stitches. And I'm supposed to have 10 stitches, so I'll increase. Mm-hmm. So I would just do it. I counted, but I would end up not having the right number of stitches. And the only thing I could think of is a lot of the lace, was created with yarn overs, and that maybe as I forgot to do the yarn over, or as I was coming around, I dropped the yarn over when I got to it, or something. I don't know, but it was amazing how many times I would go, okay, what did I do?
Yeah. It's funny because no matter how much knitting you've done, like yarn overs and slip knits, it's not the knitting that's the problem, it's the counting. Mm-hmm. And that's it's about attention.
Yeah.
It really is about attention. I mean, I'm a math teacher. I know how to count.
Yes.
But apparently I don't,
Yeah. Apparently I don't either, so.
Yeah. But the problem really is attention. You think you're counting, and then suddenly you're not counting anymore because your mind is wandering. Because the stockinette gets you wandering. Mm-hmm. And anyway, So, but I am really enjoying the project, regardless of what I have just said, because it's so beautiful. And I tried it on this morning for the first time since it's been really long enough to see it's a poncho. I mean, I tried the neck, to make sure the neck was working with my different stitch counts, because I'm knitting it with a fingering weight wool, the fingering weight yarn from Sincere Sheep, the fingering weight Cormo, and the pattern calls for worsted, I think, or DK. So I had to recalculate my stitch counts. And then, another thing that I had to do, I'm kind of pleased with myself that I discovered it or thought about it, but I still had to experiment, and that caused some ripping out too, is that when you do the increases, so I did increases to make the number of stitches that I needed, and that made it so that my pattern of the holes had to change, right? Because now there's more stitches between every hole.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So more stitches than the pattern called for, because I made more increases than the pattern called for. So I had to fiddle around with that for a while. But I think I got it. So, yeah, I'm very happy with it. It's been kind of challenging, but the fun kind of challenging in some ways, changing the stitch counts, and then just the stupid kind of challenging, the fact that I have to rip out and fix because I didn't put the holes in the right place.
Yeah.
So, but that's it for me. So, what about for you?
Well, I've not finished anything, and I'm just down to working on one project. I'm working on the pullover called Opteca by Isabel Kramer, and this is the one I'm making out of that Imperial yarn, the Tracy 2.
Yeah.
I'm almost done with the body. I'm sitting here knitting on it, and I have one more row on the ribbing, and then I'll bind off.
Oh my! So you've done all that.
The patterning.
All that patterning? Oh, that's really pretty patterning.
Because I was... Because of the last few months or the last month, I've been sitting a lot and knitting and not dealing it as therapy. So, yeah. So anyway, I've got the body done, and if you look at my picture on Ravelry, there's this odd line in the body. So it's a top down pullover, and it's all stockinette down to maybe the last, I would say, 7 or 8 inches. Or then the pattern starts, and then ribbing. And I had knit down maybe, let me look at this. I had knit down maybe 6 inches or so, and I got worried that the gauge I had, I'm supposed to have 5 stitches to the inch, and that's what my swatch came out as, 5 stitches to the inch. But as I was knitting it, I was getting 6 stitches
I'm looking at it. I just popped up your picture, and I can see the really weird thing that's happening with your sweater.
Yes. So what I did, and the thing is, I did not, which you should do. I did not do it. Is measure my swatch. I should have taken the gauge unwashed and then washed. Right. I just did it washed. I was getting 5 stitches to the inch. Now I'm knitting this thing. I'm only getting 6 stitches to the inch. And I thought what's going to happen is when I wash it, it'll be fine. But I thought I don't want to knit the whole sweater anxious. Right. So I took it off, put it on waste yarn, washed the sweater and what I had. And I realized I was getting that my gauge is correct. So then I just picked up and then put those stitches back on the needle and I started knitting. So if you look at the picture, I've got this really weird line.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. You should post this picture in the Ravelry thread. Okay. Because it really is an interesting way to show what happens or what can happen. It isn't always what happens, but what can happen when you block something. Mm-hmm. When you wash. I mean, you didn't really block it. You just washed it.
No, I did block it.
I mean, like pin it out and stuff?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Okay. So you pinned it out to the measurements. Mm-hmm. Okay. But yeah, it just really bloomed. And you can see a very, very distinct difference. I mean, dramatic difference between the part that's washed and blocked and the part that's not.
Yeah. And I showed it to, I was knitting on it because, Crystal, we've talked about my friend Crystal and coming to the meetup, and she's learning to knit. She's now, she finished the hat that she was working on, and she's started another hat. She's very excited about it, but I was knitting on this, and she's like, okay, well, that looks bad. She thought it was always going to be in there, and I was like, no, it's not going to be in there. But she was really concerned when she saw my sweater, because it looks like
bad. You did something wrong.
Like I did something really wrong. So I did put that in my notes too, is that it's because I washed it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so now I just have to do the sleeves, and the sleeves, there's no patterning on the sleeves, so they should go pretty quick. And I have to say too, I went through my needles. I need size 5 needles. The body, and the sleeves are in size 5. And I discovered that I had a really short size 5 needles that I can do the sleeves on. So I won't have to do my double-pointed needles that I got from the D-Stash room at Knockers.
Oh, you know what? I think you got me a pair of them, too, because...
They're plastic, which are our favorite kind of needles.
Well, the ones that I have, the only super short needles that I have, besides my 9-inch circulars for socks, I'm using for a hat. And most of the time when I start a hat, because my needles are not exactly the right length, it's agony. Until you have about an inch. If you're using needles that are like right the size that you need, not smaller, it's kind of agony for the first inch until you get some stretch to your project. Yeah. Anyway, so that's really nice that you have the right size of circular needles for the sleeves.
Yeah.
So you don't have to use double points.
Thanks to the Knockers retreat, I have them.
Spirit needles.
Yeah, Spirit needles. So I'm doing that. And then, so that's all is without that sweater. And then I'm planning my next sweater.
Well, I have to ask you a question, though. Did you like doing those traveling stitches in the patterning in the bottom?
Yeah.
That looks really fun.
It was really fun, and it's all done with, they're really distinct, and the ribbing is this way, too, where it's the knit through the back loop. So it's not just the straight knitting stitch. And it took me a little bit of time to get started. I had to look at the chart, and then I had to go back and look at that chart, or whatever it's called. I had to go then look what the definition was. But then when I finally kind of memorized what it was, and I was actually able to go, I look at what the pattern was, and I could just go all the way around and not have to keep looking at the chart. It actually ended up being quite easy to memorize.
And you can see where you were the row before, so you know kind of what you're doing the next row.
Right.
Yeah, I like doing that. I made a pair of socks that have spiders on them. And that spider pattern is all done with traveling stitches, and it was so fun.
Yeah,
I just really liked it. So I was curious if you felt the same way.
Yeah, it was, because it's so distinctive. It's really easy to see where you are. And just going back then to the Recoleta that I did, I never knew where I was. I mean, it really is interesting. I never knew. I knew what row I was on, but I couldn't. I could never memorize that repeat going all the way around the sweater.
Well, and two things not in its favor. One is that it was a large lace repeat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's lace, so it's holey, plus it doesn't stand out as much. You have to kind of stretch it to see it. But it was also a large repeat, and then it was dark yarn.
Yeah.
That's the other thing not in the favor of being able to tell what you were doing on Recoleta.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice. It's turned out really well.
Yeah. So anyway, but now I'm planning my next sweater, and because I have several sweater quantities worth of yarn, I really want to focus on that. That's why I was doing this one with the Tracy 2, because I had that in my stash for a couple of years and I wanted to use it. So the other one I have in my stash is worsted weight yarn from 13 Mile Lamb and Wool Company.
Oh, right.
And that green, it's called sage, so it is like sage green. And I have 1,200 yards. And I'm discovering that for me, when I buy a sweater, I have to buy more than 1,200 yards because it's not quite enough to make a sweater for me, especially if I like my sweaters a little more on the loose side. I like to have positive ease. Right. So all of a sudden I thought, I've been looking at sweaters using that yarn, I haven't been able to find anything that I really liked. And then all of a sudden I thought, well, why didn't I just combine it with something else? And then I'll increase my yardage. So,
Right.
and I've been wanting to make a sweater that has a yoke where all the color work and the yoke. And I think maybe your Indigo Frost inspired me too, Kelly.
Oh, nice.
And your Cowichan to start doing some color work. So I have been looking at patterns, and there's 2 patterns I'm looking at. The first one's called Snowflower by Heidi Kermeyer, and it's very traditional with actually snowflakes, going across the yoke. And then the other one I'm looking at is Wintersol, if I'm pronouncing that the right way.
Are these in your favorites?
Yes, they are. And the designer is Jennifer Steingass. And what's interesting about both of these is you cast on, do a provisional cast on, and you knit the yoke up towards the neck. So you cast on at a lot of stitches, knit to the top, right, and do the neckline. Then you go back and you pick up all those live stitches from the yoke and then knit down.
Go down.
Which
How
is really
interesting.
And I was reading on one, and I don't remember now which designer made this comment, but that increases in color work look better if you're knitting up than if you're knitting down.
Increases, I
believe I'm sorry, I take that back. Decreases look.
Oh, well, I was going to say if you're knitting
down,
up,
if you were knitting down, they'd be increases.
Right.
If you're knitting up, they would be decreases.
And decreases look better.
Color work looks better with decreases than with increases.
Okay.
So that's why it's designed this way.
Yeah. So I'm going to weigh in my choice of which one I think looks better.
Okay.
I like the color work in Snowflower better.
Oh, you do?
Yes. I think the Wintersol is nice. Mm-hmm. Oh, I like the bottom, though. I like the bottom of that one. Oh, I know.
And if you look
I'm changing my mind. I don't have a preference.
Oh, you're no help.
Sorry.
So my brother looked at it and he said, oh, Wintersol, no question.
Okay. It has I like the bottom of it. The bottom of it's really nice.
Well, but also not to take Snowflower off the table. If you look at people's project pages, a lot of people have added a border at the bottom.
Okay.
So I could do that.
Yeah.
But here's my dilemma now is, what do I combine it with?
Your hand spun.
Well, I know. That's
okay. So just so people know, Marsha and I have already talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
That wasn't just a wild shot in the dark.
But here's the thing, Kelly. I want to start it. I don't want, and the thing is, like, it's not like I'm going to start at the bottom and work up, and I can take my time on the color. I'm going to do the color work first.
Yeah.
And so,
so you don't have anything already done.
No. Well, actually, that's not true. I do have hand spun that it's Targi. And so now this is what I need your help with. Probably is there's hand spun I have already. It's Targi. It's a 2-ply, which is what the
13
mile. Yeah, the 13 mile.
8 mile M&M.
Yeah. My 13 mile is a 2-ply worsted weight. So, which is interesting that it would be a worsted weight as a 2-ply. Because usually they're 3-plies, aren't they? Or
I'm not sure. I think so, but yeah.
Anyway, I have, I think the hand spun I have like 260 yards. Mm-hmm. And I think for my size, I need about 110 yards of the different color, the two colors? I can't remember now. What I was thinking is I need to do swatches of both my 13 mile and the thing and see how they compare to each other. If they work okay, then I was thinking what I would do is I would take that one skein and I'd split it in half. I'd use the natural color undyed for the snowflakes, and then I would dye the other one a color, like a red or something for an accent color, whatever color I pick. And then there's a dark gray in there, and I thought, well, I have some that black merino
Oh, yeah.
That I've not spun any of it. And I was thinking, well, I could just spin that for the, but all this requires a little bit of planning and work.
Right. And you just want to start.
I just want to start.
So do you have another sweater quantity that you could just start while you're doing the planning of this?
Yes, I do. Well, the other thing I was thinking is I just have to spin one more bobbin of the combo spin, my second combo spin. And what I was thinking I could do is I could spin that in a couple days, right? Fly it, and then I would have a sweater quantity right there that I could just start that.
Right.
While I figure out what to do.
Yeah. That's a good idea because you already kind of know what pattern you want to use for the combo, your second combo spin.
Yeah, I have a couple of patterns.
That's what I think you should do. And then that will give you time to swatch. I'm looking at one of the snowflowers on the pattern page that has the bind off in the contrast color. I think we talked about that in the last episode. I really like that look. Just a tiny little line.
Tiny little bit at the bottom.
At the bottom of the sleeves and the hem of the... Yeah, I don't know. I like the geometry of the Vintersol color work on the bottom, combined with the top, that little bit on the bottom. Yeah, is the geometry of that is really nice. But I do like this snowflower.
Well, and the other thing I like about snowflower is it has a wider neckline. Than
That's
Vintersol.
True, and it has more ease. I mean, just in the way people are wearing them, it looks like it has more ease.
Yeah.
I like it. I like them both.
Well, Lord knows I have enough yarn. I could make both of them.
That's true. That's actually true.
I was thinking that Vintersol one also would be interesting because, Snowflake has, I think there's the main color and 4 other contrasting colors.
Yeah, I think so.
The Vintersol, I believe, it's 3. So you have the
2
the
contrast
body.
colors. Yeah.
Isn't it? I have to look at it again.
So I'm looking at the pattern page, and it has the main color is mint blue. Contrast color 1 is dark gray, and the contrast color 2 is light gray.
Yeah.
So that's only 2 contrast colors.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you have the body one color and the yoke is another color, but then it's divided by this leaf pattern, so to speak.
Right.
Kind of. And so the other thing I was thinking with that pattern, which might be kind of interesting, is have the leaves are in a solid, but have the body in kind of a tonal. Mm-hmm. Would be kind of, so if you had the same manufacturer of the yarn for the color that's sort of below the line that sort of divides the yoke, where you have the leaves sort of crossing that line, one going into the top color, one going in, and the leaves going into the bottom color. What if you had like a tonal, like the same manufacturer, so it's the same yarn, both tonals, but one color on the top, one color on the bottom, and then those leaves tying it together. Right. Some people have done kind of and isn't that the right word I want, tonal, where you have a slight variation in the yarn.
Yeah. Where it's not well,
a solid.
Yeah. It's not just a flat solid color.
But then I think, for snowflake, I want a flat solid color. I want a solid. So anyway, I'm still thinking, but yeah.
That would be a good use of handspun, though, I think.
For the snowflake?
For either one of those two, yeah. To go with that, I keep wanting to say 8 mile or 9 mile, 13 mile. To go with that 13 mile, I think that would be a good way to combine it with something else. Mm-hmm.
So in the next couple of days, I'll swatch with both my 13 mile and then my that hand spun.
Yeah, to see how they play together. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I was just going to knit separate little swatches of them, but what I really need to do is combine them.
I would, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that till just now. I need to combine my swatch.
See how they look. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
You can do some of one, do a little bit of color work, and then some of the other, so you have a little bit of all. Mm-hmm. So I'm swatching too.
Oh, what are you swatching for?
I don't know if you remember, when I was cleaning out the studio, I got rid of pattern books, but I went, or pattern magazines. So I went through them, and if there was a pattern that I really still liked that I had marked with a Post-it note or whatever, I pulled it out. And I have a binder with sleeves, you know, those sheet protectors. And so I stuck the pattern in there. So one of the patterns that I did that with, and I actually found it on Ravelry, is from 2008. I was thinking it was earlier than that, but I think it was about 2008. It's called Knit It Down, and it's that one with the square collar and a V-neck. It's a pullover. Right, yeah. And I don't know, I just always liked that pattern, and I could use sweaters like that. You know, pullover, not cardigan, but not the kind of pullover, I mean, where I have something on underneath it, and I just use it as an overlayer. And so kind of like a sweatshirt, you know, like a hooded sweatshirt that you pull on over stuff. So I thought, I'll make that. What I was really thinking I would do is use something, you know, inexpensive, washable. And so I was thinking, well, I don't have anything like that in my stash. So like maybe go and look at, you know, like a Barocco vintage or something on Knit Picks or whatever. And then I started looking through my stash, and I saw the pink and orange and yellow Sakata.
Oh, yes.
And I decided I'm going to hold it double and I'm going to swatch. So I'm holding it double and swatching. And I have a lot of it. And then you have a lot of it.
Yes.
Because I was making a pair of socks, a Lucy Neat Bee pattern with these giant holes in the sock cuffs. Really fun pattern. And I was afraid I was going to run out of yarn. So I went online to see if I could buy some more. And of course, where I ended up, I could get a whole bag. And it was such a great price. I had to buy the whole bag. Like, why? So I have a whole bag, or I had a whole bag of this Sakata sock yarn. I don't know, 3,000 yards, 4,000 yards, like massive yardage. I think 4,000 yards, because they're about 400 yards a piece, and there were 10 in a bag. And then I never needed it. It turns out I never even needed what I bought to finish the socks.
Well, and I have 2 balls of it.
Yeah, I gave some to you. I have 3 balls.
Do you need it back for your?
I might. I might. I might ask for it back. I don't think I will, because I've got. Oh, here, I have it here. It's got some wool in it. I was thinking it was all cotton. So it's 414 yards, and I've got 3 balls of it, which is 1,200. And the pattern doesn't call for that because it takes an Aran weight yarn. So anyway, I have to see if I get the right gauge. I've swatched it with a couple different needles, and then I'm going to see. These are not my colors, but
they're so pretty.
They're not. I mean, they're not like ugly, but it will be something that. It'll just be something different. The orange.
I like the colors.
Yeah, orange and pink and yellow. And even when you knit it doubled, I'm still getting stripes. I'm not sure. I mean, it's partly just the way the yarns are lining up, the 2 different balls. But I think it's also partly because when the yarns blend together, the orange still stands out from the pink. Like if it's a strand of pink and a strand of orange, it still looks orange. If it's a strand of yellow and a strand of pinky purple, it still looks yellow. Yeah. So anyway, the swatch has wider stripes.
If you need them, they're in my stash. You can have them.
Yeah. I know you started trying to make something with it, and it was coming out too stripy.
Well, I started. It was a shawl. Oh, it was a shawl. Oh, I just realized something. Let me finish my thought. Something popped into my brain. No, I started a shawl, but it was too busy. It was a lace shawl.
Oh, right.
And this is early on, and it actually wasn't lace, but it had like these sort of fake cables kind of in it, and a little some open work, and it was too busy for it, and that's why I ended up not using it.
Okay.
No, what popped into my mind was I had always said I've never knit anything with hazelnuts. And I just realized that's not true because I started the pattern with the saccata, decided I didn't like it, went to the store and bought hazelnuts. Which
right.
And I made the shawl out of the hazelnuts. And I kept saying, Julie, one of our listeners, and came to the meetup, she loves hazelnuts. And I had said to her, I've never used it. Now I realized I was a liar. I have used it.
You have used hazelnuts.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that shawl.
Okay.
So anyway, yes, I'm sorry. I had a...
Yeah, so that's in my plans because I only have 3... Well, except for the charity hats, I only have 3 projects going. No, wait. Well, I've got the linen sweater, and I've got my poncho, and I think that might be it. Anyway, I don't have a lot of projects going. I mean, my third project is a weaving project. I have two active knitting projects that. Not counting my charity knitting and my swatch, which that's too few. One of them is hibernating till spring. So I need something else.
Yeah.
So I'm scheming, planning and scheming. But then there's also stitches coming up, and I want to leave myself open to what I might find at Stitches that I must cast on right that moment.
Yes.
I've never done that. One year I actually went to Stitches thinking, okay, I want to buy yarn. If I need to, I'll buy needles. I brought some needles with me. If I need to, I'll buy needles. I want to just buy yarn at Stitches and cast on that night in the motel room. And I didn't. I didn't find anything.
You're going to do that this year. You're going to try and do that this year.
Well, I'm leaving myself open to that possibility.
Okay.
Because I think that would be fun. So thinking about planning for knitting, future knitting projects. We have a knit-along coming, Marsha.
Yes. I'm excited about this one.
I am,
I'm excited about all of them, but I'm especially excited about this one.
Yeah, it's been a while. I can't remember what our last one was that we did. It doesn't.
Single shot.
Oh, the single shot. That's right. But anyway, this one is going to be the Sheep Thrills knit-along. Crochet along, weave along, whatever. Yes. So the idea of this one is that it's going to be anything, knit or crochet anything that is sheep related. But just because it's made out of wool, that's not enough to be sheep related. That would be cheating.
Yeah.
So, but Marsha and I both have several cute projects in our queues that are of sheep, have sheep on them. Sheep, a hat with sheep pillows. I have these sheep mittens in my queue that one of the project pages that somebody did was they used that pattern for a pillow, and I've been wanting to make that. So anyway, a little inspiration for Marsha and I to get on the ball.
Yes. And because I'm thinking of that bobble hat. Mm-hmm. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Making, because I've been wanting to make that for a while. And I think that would be a good project out of hand spun too.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah, because you just need small amounts of different colors.
Yeah. And then the other one I've been thinking about too is the and I've forgotten the name of the pattern, but the one that's the sheep. It's the little animal. The little you've got it in your queue too.
Yeah, it's a Pearl Soho pattern.
Yeah.
And there's 2 of them actually. One is with bulky yarn. So it's actually called the Bauble Sheep Pillow. Not ba like B-A-A, but bauble like it's made out of baubles. So you knit the body of the sheep in all these knitted baubles. So yeah, there's a regular one that's in sport weight and super bulky. They must hold the sport double. And then there's a larger size of sheep pillow in jumbo that's knit with jumbo yarn. They're all really cute. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's going to start March 1st because as we realized, March roars in like a lion and leaves like a lamb.
Yes.
Is that how the quote goes?
Something like that. Goes out like
Something
a lamb.
Like
yeah. Roars in like a lion.
Goes out like a lamb. Roars in like a lion. Goes out like a lamb. So we're just going to start March 1st and end May 1st.
Yeah. And then we'll be recording shortly after May 1st so we can talk about prizes and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited about this. I mean, I'm also excited to see what people are knitting, and I think I'll put together another bundle. Those are fun, where people can put their patterns in, and I've found a lot of patterns that way that I wouldn't have found myself, but other people have suggested. So,
yeah. So that's a good idea. I'll start looking for things too.
Okay.
Because when I start looking, I may find something else that I want to make.
Right.
But I am sort of thinking of those too.
Yeah. And this gives us some time it gives everybody some time to plan what they want to make.
Yeah. And then we wanted to talk a little bit about the shop.
Yeah. So, the shop's been a little bit slow, and partly that's because of the fact that there's not much left in the shop. First, though, let's talk about what people have made.
Yes.
So
this has been really fun.
Yeah. The most recent things, one was Julie J. Chant, her hat that she made out of the Rambouillet. I think it was one that you had dyed, the one she was knitting on. And she posted pictures on Instagram. She was at a knitting retreat and was knitting on the hat there. And then she's finished it, but really cute. And then, but the thing that I'm most excited about is Dagmar's vest, Dagger 51. And she actually calls it the Salinas vest.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the Shoreline vest by Carrie Bostick Hogue. And she was here at the house and was looking at the yarn and decided to buy the undyed merino and make this vest. Oh, it turned out so pretty. I'm really just super excited to see something like this made from that yarn.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
It's a nice classic design. It has a kind of a narrow but low collar and then 3 buttons. But anyway, that yarn was so nice. And that was the last 3 undyed skeins that we had that she bought. I'm glad we had the right amount of the undyed yarn for her to use, but that yarn was gorgeous. And apparently, I didn't realize this, but apparently the colored merino is more common here on the West Coast. That the merinos are actually not all, the traditional white merino sheep. So I'd like to get, I have some more merino, and I'd like to get some of that processed to put to put more of that into the shop.
Yeah, it's nice. We'll have to see if we can find more.
Well, and that brings us to the other thing that we wanted to talk about. It's kind of interesting, this whole process of, wanting to buy fleeces, wanting to support producers, and then realizing that you can do that more if you make the yarn available to people. And that connecting up the supply chain that we talked about before. But it's been really interesting, the timing. Like, how do you get your timing right? We bought fleeces at Black Sheep and then had them processed and got them back in April. So there was a long time period there where we weren't sure what we were going to do with them or how, or, we hadn't made plans, but we had them processed. We got them back in April of last year. Let's see, when did the shop open? August, I think, is when the shop opened. And, I didn't know if anybody would be interested, if the stuff would sell. So it wasn't like I wanted to go out and buy a bunch more fleeces for the shop. Right. I mean, I bought fleeces at the Monterey Wool Auction because I do that. But
yes.
But, not knowing how things would go. Well, now I have kind of an idea. I mean, I think there's actually an interest. So, but now, so I have some fleeces to have processed, but I have no processor. And then once I've worked out where it's going to be sent to be processed, that's going to take some time too. And so, I don't know, that's a really interesting sort of, how do you get the timing right of, so you always have something in your shop,
Because you have to, there are so few processors now.
Right.
And then they often, because there are so few, they often have a backlog.
Right. And then,
so it's
like Valley Oak Woolen Mills that we talked about last time, I talked with her because I was going to be up in Sacramento. I talked with her, but she's a few weeks away, she said, from being able to process fine wools into yarn. So, and that's what I have the most of. So yeah, meshing everything is challenging.
Yeah. We're learning.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I mean, it's kind of a labor of love more than anything. So that's good. That's a good thing. But I can see why, it would be a difficult challenge for someone to get up and running because I don't know, I never thought about it before, how the supply coming in works. And then how do you know if you need more when you don't even know if what you have is going to sell?
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. It's been interesting. But there is still some dyed yarn in the shop. There's some undyed yarn for weaving that I haven't put in the shop yet because I thought, well, maybe I'd dye it, but I haven't done that yet either. So anyway, we have a little bit in there, but I'm surprised at how little is left. But we'll be getting something in new soon, I hope. And when you're here, Marsha, maybe we can do something.
Yeah. Oh, I'm hoping so.
Yeah. I don't know what we'll have to work with, what raw materials we'll have to work with, but we'll figure something out. Yeah. So anyway, just thought I'd let listeners in on a little bit of the behind the scenes story of how it works.
What we're doing.
Our sort of, I won't say floundering efforts. It's not that. It's an experiment. And
we're getting an education.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We've learned a lot, and it really is an experiment to see how this works. And so that from that standpoint is fun, but it really has highlighted to me the challenges in the supply chain, which is exactly what FiberShed. I mean, that's one of the things that they've worked on finding, like where are those gaps, and there truly are some big gaps. Yeah,
there are gaps that
So, anything else?
I just have one last thing that I'm just excited. I just want to share with people is everyone knows I'm going with my friend Kim K. Magden on Ravelry. We're going to the Edinburgh. I have to say it the right way. Edinburgh. I have to practice. I've been told repeatedly it's not Edinburgh. Anyway, we're going to the Yarn Festival in March. And we have our flights. We booked our hotel. We got our tickets to the Yarn Fest.
Exciting.
I'm not quite sure what's happening. It's interesting that you can buy tickets for all 3 days online. And then you could also go and just buy the tickets the day of the event. However, Thursday, you can only buy tickets online. You can't buy them at the door. And I don't know what's happening Thursday. Oh. So, and I've been, there's not much information on their website, and I've not really heard anything on the Ravelry group so it'll be interesting. It's going to be a surprise what's happening on Thursday. But we have our tickets for all 3 days.
Nice.
And word is that there's on the Yarn Fest is, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But it's not open on Sunday, but there is on Instagram, this is in the newsletter, there are going to be events happening actually the whole time. And then on Sunday that are, they're called fringe events.
Oh, that's cute.
Which I love that. Yeah. Isn't that cute? So hopefully I'll find out what those are in the newsletter and we can go to those because we're planning on being in Edinburgh through Sunday, and then Monday we're going to get a rental car and then drive up. Well, we're not exactly sure where we're going. We're still planning, but go to the Highlands or out into the countryside.
Nice.
So, but I'm excited. We've got, as soon as you get, your flight and your tickets and your hotel, it feels like you're going. And then, and then I just have to share something funny. I may have talked about this before, I don't remember, but I live in Seattle, very rainy here. You would think I would have the best rain gear, but I realized I don't have very good rain gear because if it's raining, I'm just not outside, right? Or I'm just running to and from the car.
Right.
And I needed good rain gear for this trip, but I also thought I need good rain gear because I'm now out walking a dog, in the rain. So I've had I've ordered 5 coats, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Well, one of them, I got a coat from Patagonia, and a fabulous coat, really nice.
Is this the one that came while I was there? The black one?
The black one that without the liner, right?
Yeah.
Is that the one that came? Anyway, the first one I got, I think you saw while I was here, but it was one that had a quilted liner, and the people at Patagonia were very nice, and she said, I think this is the coat that you're going to want. I wore it one day to walk the dog, and it was about 40 degrees out. Mm-hmm. I was so hot in that coat. I thought I'll never wear it in Seattle, because even though we have a lot of rain, it doesn't really get that cold. I mean, and so you want to be able to layer something on underneath it. And I thought, I will never wear that coat. So it went back, and I ordered another coat from Patagonia, which is the one I'm keeping, which does not have a liner, but it's also softer fabric. The first one was very stiff fabric. And the other thing I thought I won't be able to stand is the collar was sort of high to keep out the rain. But because it was so stiff, it hit the bottom of my chin.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, that's going to drive me nuts. So it's gone back. I have the coat. I'm very happy with it. And then I also ordered another coat, a very light, very, very lightweight quilted coat that you can wear under it, or you can wear it just separately as a coat. And it's the kind, it's not down, it's just a polyfill, but if I need it, it'll add an extra layer of warmth if it's actually necessary. But also, it collapses down. You can push, and it all goes in one of the pockets. So it's a great travel little lightweight coat.
Oh, that's nice.
It's really great. So I got that. And I also ordered a water-resistant purse so I'm not going to carry my big Coach bag that's leather. I have this nice little travel bag. So I'm getting there.
Fun.
Next thing is good pair of shoes. So I feel like I'm going to Scotland now.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
Well, that's really cool. Yeah. Well, you're going to have quite a lot of traveling, because you're coming here for stitches, and then going to Scotland. And then coming back here for knockers. Yes.
And stitches and knockers are the bookends where you're going to have Enzo.
Yeah.
You're going to have Enzo from stitches to knockers.
That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it. Anyway. Okay. That's it for me.
Okay. Well, and that's it for me too.
Okay. All right. We'll talk in 2 weeks.
Alrighty. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit twoewesfiberadventures.com. We have links for iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, and others.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the Two Ewes,
doing our part for World Fleece.